In our country, over the last 3 decades, testosterone levels have dropped 17%. Fertility is down, obesity is up, diabetes is up, hypertension is up, heart disease is up. We're not healthy. There's a lot of theories: sedentary lifestyle, diet, pesticides in our food, chemicals in our environment, plastics that we're exposed to. But something's going on that's disrupting our hormones. It's not throughout the world. It's this country. Third world countries aren't seeing this.
Tonight we're going to be speaking about fighting death and healing communities. And the reason why I chose this headline is I was hoping to grab some attention and to grab the attention of the right people, because you're all here tonight. So we're going to have some fun. When we're looking at the opportunity to fight death and heal communities, the objective for that is defining that. But before I could define it, I think what's really important is for you to know more about who I am and what our team looks like and who they are as well. So I'm Charlie Zamora of Warriors Fitness. I started the gym with my wife in our fitness business in 2010. Been running it ever since. We have a storefront in Elk Grove, California, Sacramento area, and that's where we run that business that does multiple contracts, and we'll get into that. I've worked with the Wittmer family now for some time. They've been friends of mine for a really long time through our backgrounds in fitness and training and strength. And so Dr. Michael Wittmer will be speaking on the second half of this about kind of where we can take wellness with more evidence, okay? So the things that I'm going to focus on, we currently have the wellness program with the City of Elk Grove. The wellness program with the City of Elk Grove includes all city employees, which would include law enforcement. So for the past 5 years, we've had that contract. I've been able to spend multiple days in a row, multiple hours, not only coaching, but developing an opportunity to understand what are the things that law enforcement officers go through throughout their day? What are the stresses on their central nervous system? What's the stresses on their family? What's the stresses on their life? And then how can we make fitness accessible to them? How can we create opportunities for them to learn or be educated in that way by someone that they also trust? So for me, stepping into this, as you can imagine, it is contract work. Within the first year, I knocked out the incumbent to take over the program with my wife. And the one thing I love about law enforcement is they are very loyal. So it took about 1.5 years for me to earn the trust and respect of everyone on the team. But that came really easy for me because I'm passionate and I care. And me and my wife, as we run that business, we wanted to invest our lives into making sure that we were making an impact, not just fulfilling a duty of doing a job. And so that was something that was important to us. That contract that we've had for 5 years continues to get renewed. We continue to learn more and more about that community and how to service them. But we also know that that's particular to that environment, which is our city. Different cities have different demands on what they need to get done or what their emphasis is. Other contracts that we have currently is Consumeness Fire, which we just got this year. So we're working with Consumeness Fire, which is all of Elk Grove, all of the city of Galt, and the south end of Sacramento, so some fire stations in that area. Now, first responders as well. I know there's a little bit of a rivalry between the two, but understanding what is necessary to make someone successful when they're working on lack of sleep, right? They're responding to things that are very critical when it comes to making decisions, and then also seeing trauma. These are all things that kind of affect our body, but they don't really come out in front of us and show us how they compact into other areas of our life. They usually just surface. And so learning how to deal with that kind of stuff is extremely important. I was also very blessed to be involved with a relationship with the family, the Hahn family, Chief Daniel Hahn, which is now retired. He came into our facility in our gym. Actually, his wife came in first, and we've trained them since 2011 or 2012. So his wife and my wife happen to be really good friends as well, Katrina, and I trained their daughters. But when Chief Hahn was the chief over in Roseville, I spent a lot of time with him there. I worked with the RPAL program there. We did a lot of cool stuff. But one of the things that really interested me with the RPAL program when I was there is I realized that a lot of the officers were working out. Now, they weren't all doing the same thing, but they were all doing different things to exercise. And I'll get back to that a little bit later in this presentation, but that always stuck in my mind. And Daniel told me what they did there, and this is how I've built this program over probably the last 5 to 6 years. And as Daniel transitioned back to Sacramento, he was there, and that led me opportunities to learn more about that community and what to service. And then Tyler Curtis, who's the training instructor for their academy, his wife trains at our gym, so it's interesting. Spent most of my youth running away from law enforcement and teachers, and now they're all around me. We worked with him and his wife, and all of a sudden he becomes the head personnel for training and creating what the academy does. So he's asking me, he said, hey, would you lend some insight on what you think we should be doing here, because you understand kind of the demands of someone getting through the academy, but then walking into that probational period, right, where they're with their FTO and they're learning about the street and learning if they're going to be able to do patrol and work through that process and then work into their career. And over 5 years, I've seen that process of someone go through the academy, get with their FTO, end up on the street on their own, and now some of them have even, because Elk Grove is growing, moving into different positions, such as sergeant and moving up along the line. But what I learned with Tyler is observing all the exercises is that the exercise protocol that was being asked of them was a little military-esque, but at the same time, there wasn't a great way of building community. And I don't say that disrespectfully, because the academy is supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to push you and get you going in the right direction. But at the same time, I thought that there could be more unity in the way in which they programmed workouts. And the unity is in the shared experience of suck, whether it's that run that they do or other workouts. But when we spent some time in there, I was able to uncover a lot of what I called holes that I could see from my perspective being in fitness of how they could fill those. They've since made some changes, and he said the workouts have not only been better, they've been able to create more camaraderie amongst the people coming in and going through that academy. So that was super exciting to see how that kind of went in. So I say all that to say this. Most of the time there has to be a qualifying statement that says, I understand your community, and I'm happy that I can give that from experience, but I'm also happy that I could say that I've worked with the individuals that are creating the protocol to filter these people into the workforce, which would be at an agency. I've also been able to work with someone at two different agencies that's a chief that's making those types of decisions. And then I've been on the ground every day with everyone in between that's on patrol, that's in street crimes, and seeing kind of what those demands are. Because each one of those spots in law enforcement, they live very different lives, not only different schedules, but the different things that they're seeing. So having all that information and putting that together, it was really important for me to say, okay, how can I make an opportunity for everyone to do something that's going to help them be successful in their own personal wellness? And so as I looked at that, I thought the real big key is how do you define fitness, okay? And so when we're looking at defining fitness, we want to define that as healthy movement, and healthy movement that's sustainable. So we want to have opportunities where it doesn't have to be one way for everyone, but it has to be a way in which you continue finding yourself doing it, right? So we gave this example, we were talking in the car about fitness in general. If Jeff here, his barrier to entry for access to wellness or fitness is walking, I can't be in a position to tell him that that's not a good source of exercise if he wasn't walking and he'd be doing nothing. If that's where he's at, that's a step in the right direction. So what we want to say is that wellness, and we want to say that fitness is finding something that's going to push you in the right direction where you're going to continue that habit or that routine, and it's going to bring an opportunity for you to grow in your own personal development in health and wellness. Now that might lend you the opportunity to say, hey, every time I go in, I'm running on the treadmill, I'm walking on the treadmill, I've been seeing these people doing back squats. That looks kind of interesting. I'd like to know more about it. Well, we would have never had that conversation if we didn't make you feel that both of those training styles could be present in the same room, where this person is not just trying to get out of a workout, maybe it's a limitation of knowing, right? So now we've created this environment within the gym or within our culture that we're saying, hey, you're just trying to access being healthy. Just because you're walking doesn't mean you're not accessing it the same way that someone is back squatting a heavy weight or doing some variation of CrossFit or doing some variation of plyometrics, but we're all saying we're choosing to be healthier. But through that opportunity, what we're doing is we're encouraging those people to find new opportunities to train, or at least expanding their horizons to be able to see, hey, there are other ways. But what we get in common is we're all trying to get better. And that, for me, is how we're going to define fitness. And making fitness accessible, that's my next point. So making fitness accessible is super important. So right now, the city of Elk Grove, as it pertains to this current contract, fitness is not mandatory. And I understand that situation. I'm in a position where, what is my job? It's to be in shape, to work out, to expand my information and my knowledge, to be able to help people achieve the highest level that they can as well. So am I supposed to be in shape? I hope so if I'm the one leading, right? I need to lead by example. I couldn't be up here out of shape telling you, hey, you know what, you probably need to get after it in the gym, or you probably need to get after it in your own life. And I lacked the discipline to do that myself. So it was super important for me to say, okay, practice what you preach. For me, my body's my business card, I do that. But at the same time, I didn't want anyone thinking that making fitness accessible is creating opportunity where you only think that the people that are in shape need to be the guys on the SWAT team, right? Or a lot of people say, oh, you know, SWAT or you're not, right? And they're in there and they're throwing the weights around and they're doing their thing. I've seen it at SAC and at Elk Grove, right? And it's tribal a little bit, right? But at the end of the day, we're all wearing the same badge, right? We're all Elk Grove, we're all SAC PD, or we're all SAC County, whatever it is. The opportunity for us to make fitness accessible is like I was saying earlier, is create these opportunities where those trainings can happen, but we're celebrating the ways in which those people do it. Elk Grove not being mandatory, we have to find ways as a provider for this contract to make exercise encouraging. So one of the things that I would say would be interesting is to create challenges, right? So we look at more of like the admin side, right? They might not be on the street, but maybe they're have moved up, they're behind a desk a little bit more, or they're in some form of management or middle management, okay? So maybe they don't also want to jump into a workout with a bunch of people that they think might beat them in a workout, and for whatever reason, that would challenge their superiority in that pecking order. As weird as that sounds, I get it and I understand, right? Even if we're trying to create an inclusive workout environment, you can't erase certain things that are just in people, right? So ways that others can access fitness and making fitness accessible to everyone is also looking at challenges. This is something my wife does that's an amazing thing. And for someone that's in fitness so much and can go into the weeds so deep about movement and movement protocols and graphs and charts about all this stuff, sometimes I always have to take a step back and talk to my wife and go, you know what? A step challenge would be really awesome, right? Just competing. So we're going to have records compete with traffic, and they're going to compete with street crimes, and we're going to see as a team with pedometers, you know, we're going to see who can get the most steps in. Oh my gosh, it's the most competitive thing in the world. They'll like see each other, they'll walk next to each other, they'll walk faster. But then all of a sudden what happens is, look at the communication that we're going to create amongst our department, right? So now we have something outside of what we do for work. So when we were looking at an email and we didn't understand text or tone, when someone from records is asking us for something else, and we just think they're being not nice, right? Then we realize after we spent more time with them, they actually are pretty nice, and then we developed this relationship because now we're doing this challenge together. Look at that workplace happiness, right? So there's that cognitive side. There's that wellness side where then now I have a relationship with this person because I have this shared experience, which is super awesome. But now I have the opportunity to not just see their name on an email, I have a face to that. And I have something that I've done with them and I have a shared experience. And I think that's what's super cool and encouraging. So for accessing wellness, it's not just the workouts in the gym, but it's also the challenges. It's the, hey, let's just cut out sugar for a month, which usually ends up we could do it for 2 weeks, right? Or we have a variation. But it's finding fun ways to encourage those things. Now, I told you I'd get back to what Roseville does, and this is why I'm very excited. What does Roseville do, and what was that connection I have with Han? Well, my first introduction to them was RPAL. I was doing fitness competitions. At that time, there was an officer there that was training at CrossFit Anywhere with another buddy of mine, and they were doing some really cool stuff with wrestling and exercise with kids, and I wanted to learn more. And so that's when I stepped into their gym there at RPAL, and I'm looking at everything. I'm like, wow, this is super cool that you guys have a boxing ring, you have treadmills, you have all this workout equipment. I've never seen a department that has this much stuff. And at that time, Daniel says, well, every beginning of every shift, it's mandatory, everyone gets 1 hour to exercise. I was like, well, how do you pull that off? That was my first question, right? Because that's awesome, because it's my world. I know it's super important. And I said, well, do they have to access it? He goes, oh yeah, they got to do it. He says, we never tell them what they have to do, right? We're talking about accessing fitness. It could be someone just walking. It could be someone stretching for an hour. Hey, at the end of the day, even if you're practicing mindfulness and you're laying on your back and you're closing your eyes, that's good for you, right? So you want to take an hour power nap for your wellness? Go for it. I'd help you do more, but if we're going to meet you there, we'll meet you there. Anyway, so we're going through this. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. I said, well, how are you able to get there? He said, Bloodwork. Bloodwork was how we're able to get there. And as I've spent 5 years, I had no way of creating a quantifiable evidence for even I'm working on it right now, and Chief's excited about it, Chief Davis at Elk Grove. We knew exercise was important. We knew health was important. We knew fitness was important. But how do I quantify that? How do I show HR that this is something you need to spend money on. How do I convince the city or the organization that we need funding for this? Would it be good to have healthy officers? Is that good? Everyone could agree. Yeah. Should we all be eating better? Yes. Okay, yeah, those are all feel-good things, but at the end of the day, whoever's paying the bill, what's the ROI? Like, what return am I going to get? And this sounds horrible, but it's the truth. And someone will, oh yeah, it's an investment into our officers and it's good for them. This shows that we care. You should care. That should be a bottom line anyways. These people are out on the streets, servicing our communities, and in a lot of instances, risking their life to make sure that we have an awesome environment to live in, doing work, God's work, that most people won't do, right? Super awesome. But what the blood work does, and this is what Daniel expressed to me, is the blood work says this. They took everyone that worked there, got the blood work done. On the blood work, it didn't say anyone's name. They made a pie chart. On that pie chart, it got sent back to HR and said, hey, 20% of your workforce has prehypertension. 30% of your workforce is pre-diabetic. You know, X percent of your, and all of a sudden they start uncovering all these things that blood work showed. Then we had the evidence behind that to say, we know that if we increase fitness or we test this and we introduce these things, let us do the blood work, get this graph, show you where we're at, and in 1 year retest it and see if our protocols work. But the only way it's going to work is if we have 100% participation, because you can't just test one subject size. Everyone has to access it, okay? So what were their findings? They found in the short term, okay, that small injuries went up, okay, a little bit, right? But big injuries went way down. They also saved multiple people from, because they could check for cancer, pre-cancer, pre-hyper. They fixed so many problems that people didn't even know that they had just because they had this evidence, right? And that's how they're able to show to the HR department, we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars just by keeping our officers safe. Now, with that being said, blood work is going to be a key for us and for your agency or your department to say, hey, now we have the quantifiable evidence to see how we can make these changes because we have a marker. The other cool thing that's awesome about the blood work is that each person with what we're putting together with Warriors Tactical Fitness, with my team is, we will give the city the information with no names attached, but individually we can tell you what's going on so you can make the changes in your life. So if you have things going on with you that you don't want work to know for right now and you need to fix it, that's fine. They just need to know what the problems are. The problem resolution is done between our team, creating the protocols for exercise, nutrition, the blood work, and then the cognitive side, which is the mental coaching. Now, I want to turn the table over to Dr. Michael Wittmer. He's going to express to you how does blood work, what are we looking at, and what is really happening within our bodies.
I'm Mike Wittmer. I just want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite quotes. That's not my quote. It's probably about 40 years old. It's so old I don't remember who said that or where I got that. I competed in Olympic weightlifting, so that's about weightlifting, but it applies to what you guys do because your strength and fitness could dictate whether or not you survive the day. With any given day when you go to work, you don't know what you're going to be involved in. We're from St. Louis. I don't know what it's like all over the country. I assume it's pretty similar to St. Louis. And we've got several dozen police officers that we treat out here, but strong people are harder to kill. So this is what we're about. We're about healthy strength and what we can do to help you get there. We're a bioidentical hormone restoration practice. What that means is that we use hormones to help patients and you guys achieve your health needs. Particularly, what do we see? Most of the people we see, men and women alike, want the same things. You want to feel better, you want to have more energy, maybe lose some fat. Us guys, of course, we want to be jacked, we want to have muscles. Women don't want to be looking like they're on steroids, but you want somebody to look at you, and especially if you work out, and go, whoa, looks like she's in shape. Whoa, looks like she works out. Of course, you want to be stronger. And then the icing on the cake for many people is improved sexual function, improved libido. Most everybody falls somewhere in there, not necessarily all of them, of course, but that'll cover most of what we see. So what do? We optimize hormones based on blood tests lab numbers, results, but also on the patient's goals, expectations. Your results are always going to matter more than a lab number. So we optimize hormones based on that. These are blood tests that we use. It's pretty broad. We check for your lipids, cholesterol, we check glucose, A1C, we check kidney and liver function, we check for various anemias, and then we run a large group of hormone tests, thyroid, progesterone, estradiol, progesterone for women, testosterone for both men and women. We run some growth hormone factors, sex hormone binding globulin, and vitamin D. So, all right, what's going on? In our country, over the last 3 decades, testosterone levels have dropped 17%. Fertility is down. Obesity is up. Diabetes is up. Hypertension is up. Heart disease is up. We're not healthy. There's a lot of theories: sedentary lifestyle, diet, pesticides in our food, chemicals in our environment, plastics that we're exposed to. But something's going on that's disrupting our hormones. It's not throughout the world. It's this country. Third world countries aren't seeing this. So, all right, we're talking about steroids, testosterone. Anabolic steroids are bad for you. They're bad for your kidneys. They're bad for your liver. They're bad for your lipids. They cause heart disease. Testosterone is an anabolic steroid. Therefore, testosterone is bad. That's probably what everybody hears. Testosterone is a natural hormone. We make testosterone, men and women. We need testosterone. It's not a synthetic chemical. So when you hear of anabolic steroids, testosterone is guilty by association. They passed the Anabolic Steroid Act in 1990, which made anabolic steroids a controlled substance. That happened because a high school kid in Texas committed suicide. He was a football player. He committed suicide, and they wound up blaming that on him taking steroids, so they got this act passed, and now this made testosterone a bad guy. However, we're supposed to have testosterone. We make it in our own body. It was invented by God. Now, look at the similarity between testosterone and oxandrolone, which is Anavar. It's a popular, well-known anabolic steroid commonly used. You can see that they're very, very similar. However, the molecular structure has changed, and that's what is harmful to the body. Our bodies aren't made to metabolize these chemicals. Any drug is going to have downsides. So testosterone is not a foreign chemical in our body. It's something our body's supposed to have. It's something that we're meant to metabolize. Here's another one, nandrolone, also known as durabolin. Again, you can see the very, very similar chemical structure, but some subtle differences there. That's what's hard on the liver, that's what's hard on the kidneys, and that's what's damaging to your heart. So it's not to leave estrogen out of this. Estrogen is important for men, just like women. Testosterone is important for women, just like it is for men. So both of these play a major role in our life. As you can see here, estradiol, which is the most abundant and active form of estrogen, that's very, very similar to testosterone. Men make estradiol from testosterone. We make about 80% of our estrogen from testosterone. There's an enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. That's called aromatase, and here you can see the very similar transaction here where we convert testosterone to estradiol. So some of the functions of estradiol here. It's very important for brain function, for moods. In this situation here, this research shows chemical or crucial for male sexual desire. There are receptor sites in the brain for testosterone and estradiol. Testosterone is converted in the brain from testosterone to estradiol too. And that aromatase enzyme is what does that. So I don't know if you guys, I would imagine you've probably been on a scene where somebody dropped dead suddenly. If you take a 45-year-old drops dead, is that a man or a woman? It's a man. Women do not have heart disease like we do. Well, that is until they get to about their 60s, then you guys start catching up to us. Well, what's happened to a 60-year-old woman? Menopause. She lost her estrogen 10 or so years ago. So you start narrowing the gap, and you guys start catching up to us in terms of heart disease. when you look at women as they go through menopause, one of the first things that happens is they gain weight. They get a little bit of a belly, put on about 20, 25 pounds or so. And if they've been fit and working out and in shape their whole life, it freaks them out. You know, it just ruins their world. Just turn a page on the calendar and look now. They've gained weight, they're tired, their skin's dry, their joints hurt, their libido suffers, and all because a page turned over on the calendar. What's one of the worst things for us in terms of our health? Visceral fat. You got visceral fat, prediabetes, diabetes, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease. And now you've got a woman in her 60s with a heart problem, when really what happened is she had an ovary problem 15 years ago. Her ovaries died, and now it's going to take the rest of her body down with it. So there's solid evidence of the importance of estradiol for women. Some studies contradict that, and what's been determined is they use synthetic progesterones in combination with estrogen. And it's the synthetic progesterone, again, a foreign chemical that our body's not used to metabolizing, that interferes with the cardioprotective effect of estradiol. Again, this reinforces the importance of a bioidentical hormone, which is the exact same chemical structure as the hormones that we make naturally. Testosterone also increases insulin sensitivity. Very, very common for us in our practice. Middle-aged guys, 40, 45, they've gained some weight, they're tired, they're starting to slow down, and now they're on diabetes medication, maybe they're on a statin, and maybe hypertensive as well. So you put them on testosterone, they lose weight, they gain muscle, they have energy, they're motivated, they feel good, so they'll exercise, and they get results, so that just encourages them to keep going, and they go off, oftentimes, they've gone off of diabetes medications, they've been able to go off statin drugs, been able to get off of their blood pressure medicine as well. Muscle mass. I'm 68, and much of what we do, for most of the people we see, I tell them that they're not sick. You know, this is an option, this is an elective, this is anything you have to do. This is a choice. For me, it's a lifestyle choice. You know, I don't want to go down a frail old man. My attitude is, if a bad guy wants to take my wallet in a parking lot at night after dark, maybe he'll pick somebody else. I'm 6 feet, I'm 225 pounds. Might get my wallet, I can grant him that, but there's easier ones to get. That's just the way I want to live my life. So this is an option for people. It's about getting the most out of what you've got to work with. Mood, almost every day. I hear from a guy who has already been to his family practitioner because he doesn't feel well, and they ran his testosterone, and his levels were within the normal range, which we'll talk about in a second. It's a huge range. And they tell him that they're within range, but they're fine, they don't need testosterone, and then they offer them an antidepressant. Damn near every day we see that, when we know that balancing hormones affects the way you feel. So let's talk a little bit about the ranges. For men, the range for testosterone is 250 to 1100. It's a big range. So 300 is normal, and 1,000 is normal. Now I'm going to tell you right now, a guy at 1,000 is a lot happier than a guy at 300. The guy has more muscle, he has more energy, he's going to be stronger, he's going to feel better overall. Look at women. It's even worse what they do to women. For women, the range is 2 to 45. For men, the bottom of that range essentially quadruples to get up to the top of the range. For women, the bottom of the range 2, multiply that 20 plus fold to get to the top of the range for women. So a woman could be at 3 and she's normal, she could be at 43 and she's normal. Now if you look right below those, it's free testosterone. That really is what matters. Hormones in our body are carried through the bloodstream by proteins. When they are, they don't work. That's because the molecule is too large to fit into the cell receptor site. So it's that free testosterone that is actually working and available to the cells to do testosterone stuff. So for men, that range is 35 to 155. Again, multiply that about 4 or so fold, you go from bottom to top. For women, that range goes from 0.1 to 6.4, almost 60-fold for women. So there's a much greater range for a woman than there is for a man. I've got estradiol on there. For men, we have much less estradiol than women. Women, of course, depending on their menstrual status, it's going to fluctuate throughout the month, as well as progesterone. So, sex hormone binding globulin. This is the protein I mentioned. I've got a couple of examples up there for men and women. The first one on the left is a guy, he's 35 years old, his testosterone is 844. And he's talking to me because he's exhausted, he feels like crap, he has marital issues. Well, his free testosterone was 43. Again, that goes on a range from 35 to 155. So he's got a lot of total testosterone. He's in pretty good shape there. He's down at the bottom with the free testosterone. That's what matters. So that's why he feels so bad. Look at the one below. That one has 838 total testosterone with a 289 free testosterone. Got a high free testosterone level. That one's on testosterone. Then down at the bottom there's another one, 1253 for the total testosterone, free testosterone 251, less than the guy before who was in the 800s. Again, that one has lower sex hormone binding globulin. So it's not just all that simple to look at a total number and pin that onto a particular situation or set of symptoms for any given patient. For the women, the first one over there, her total testosterone was 17, which is a little below the middle of the range. Her free testosterone was 0.7, practically none. The next one, her total testosterone was 79, she's high. That range again goes up to 45, so she's over the range, but her free testosterone was 5.8, which is up at the higher end of normal range, but still it's below the top end of the range. The one below that, her total testosterone was 53, which is high. It's over the range, yet her free testosterone is down at the bottom at 1.2. So here's where that sex hormone binding globulin plays in. The first guy I mentioned with the 844 total testosterone and the 43 free, he had very, very high sex hormone binding globulin, over the norm for men, which goes up to 50. It's a protein, it's made in the liver. He had no liver disease. He just made a lot of sex hormone binding globulin, which was screwing up his hormones. The next one below, he had very low sex hormone binding globulin. He was only at 9. So he's got that 838 total testosterone number, but he's killing the other guy on the free. He's at 289, but his sex hormone binding globulin was only 9, and he was taking 160 milligrams a week of testosterone. The one down below, he's got sex hormone binding globulin of 39. So he's going to need more testosterone in order to get his free testosterone higher. So he's taking 200. That puts his total at 1253. But remember, the important one is the free testosterone. That's 251. So look at the women on the other side. So the first one, the sex hormone binding globulin of 72. So that's fairly high. It's within the normal range for women. Women have higher levels than men. So she, even with that 72, she's at 0.7 on the free testosterone. The solution for her is going to be get her testosterone up. The one down below, the second one, that woman is on 8 milligrams of testosterone a week. So that's a fairly average dose for women to take. And her total testosterone, again, it's high, it's at 79, and her free testosterone at the high end of the range. So she's optimized. So she's going to feel pretty good at that level. Now the one below is a little more complicated. She's on birth control pills. And estrogens will increase your sex hormone binding globulin, so that's going to drive down the free testosterone. So even though she's got a good level of total testosterone at 53, her free testosterone was very low at 1.2. So she's not on anything yet, but ideally her husband gets a vasectomy, or she's going to go on testosterone in order to get her level up higher. That's it, as fast as I can go. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wittmer, and thank you all for being here. I think that the information is really awesome. I know that it becomes a little bit dense, but one of the reasons why we were also talking about blood work and how this was effective for Roseville is that if you do want to take the course of understanding your body at a higher level, of understanding why these hormones are happening in your body, what's going on, one of the great things that he touched upon is that each one of those individuals, there was particular protocols that made sense for them. And a lot of time, so that's going back and forth with the doctor to figure out how's it working, what's going on. But the really cool part is, if we do the blood work for your agency or your department, we get to fulfill the opportunity to show on one side what's going on so we can increase the wellness, but then you individually get have those conversations with the doctor, whether you want to move forward or not, about what's particularly going on with you so you can make the best choices about your own personal wellness and own personal health. And I think that was an amazing job of demystifying a lot of the negative things we hear about hormones and how they're used, because most of the time when we see examples of that, it's in abuse or not medically monitored.